It is an honor to be with you this morning. As was mentioned, I'm from America, and I appreciate the irony of having somebody from America talk to you about public sector effectiveness. In America, whenever we have severe disagreements, we just shut the government down. It's very effective and tosses the entire world into economic turmoil. And on behalf of America, I apologize for that. Apparently the organizers felt I'd have some free time, so I'm here. But hopefully we don't export that practice to your countries. Sitting in my hotel room just last night, I did notice some of the things we in America have exported to you, which was really bad television. Specifically reality television. I was surprised to see European versions of the same really awful television that we have. And most of those shows, I will admit, we imported from the UK. We then made them worse and bigger and exported them to the world, and now you have them. But there is one TV show in particular, though, I want to talk about today. I've got it pictured up here, and I don't know if you have a version of this in Europe or if you've seen this, Extreme Home Makeover. Have you raised a hand if you're familiar with the show at all? Okay, a few of you. Yeah, it's typical American television. For those of you who've never seen the show before, essentially it is a show where they come in and they take people's homes and they make them better. And by better, I mean incredibly extravagant, larger than anybody would ever need. It's really a spectacle. I personally never watched the show. My wife watches it. I'm just in the room when it's on, and I don't watch. And I never cry either. There's no time in the show. If you've seen the show, it can be a tearjerker. It can make you cry. I mean, I think about the very first time that I saw it. There was this gentleman who, his sister had passed away, and she had 6 children. So this gentleman decided to take these 6 children and raise them as his own. So he was doing a wonderful thing, and he had this very big heart. The problem was his home did not match the size of his heart. His home was a 1-bedroom, very small. There was no way to accommodate these 6 children. So in comes the television show Extreme Home Makeover, and a crew of people come in, and they begin adding to his home and modifying it, and giving him more bedrooms and more space, so that he had the capacity to do the good that he wanted to do in this world. And he could raise these children. And it was amazing, and I'm crying, and it was just a fantastic experience. But that was the first season of the show. I believe they're on season 9. And if you've seen it recently, you know they do not bother coming and modifying the home. Now they show up and they knock the existing home down. They just level it. It's gone. And they build a brand new home in the exact same spot. Does anybody know how long it takes to do this? 7 days. 7 days. Well, actually, it's an hour, but there's some editing and camera tricks. But they're building a house in 7 days. Now, I don't know how they do things around here, but where I come from, we don't get homes in 7 days. In fact, my wife and I built a house a few years ago, and we actually hired one of the builders that was on Extreme Home Makeover, because we figured we've got to get our kids into the school. We want a new home in this new city. This is the guy that can do it for us. And we met with him and said, how long will it take you to build our house? And he said, 9 months. Wait a minute, I've seen you on TV, 7 days. He said, well, we don't do them all that way. But there's something in that number. How do you build a home in 7 days? When for everybody else it takes 9 months, or in the case of my family, 14 months. But it's not about that today, right? What I want to offer you is The secret to dealing with all of the problems you have in your government agencies, the solution to that is in this TV show. They gave away all the secrets of how to do more good on that TV show. So in the short time we have this morning, and for those of you that are joining us in the workshop tomorrow, we'll get into it deeper. And if you want to know more, it's in my book as well. But we're going to dive into this topic specifically. How do we increase our capacity to do more good? Because at the end of the day, it's capacity is the issue that we're facing. Okay? When you think about all of the issues that are before you in your agencies right now, you think about rising costs, decreasing budgets, we have failed IT projects, low customer satisfaction, maybe we have low employee morale, maybe we have management and employees that are fighting with each other, right? We have all these issues that we face in government, and we try to solve them each independently. Long lines, extra bureaucracy. We see all these things and we try to solve all of them independently. But the reality is that all of these things that you're facing are symptoms of one problem, which is capacity. In government, we do not have the capacity to do all the things that we want to do, or to do all the things our citizens want us to do. There's no budget, there's no people, there's no time. We don't have enough. If we had more capacity, we could serve more people. We could help more people. We could do more things. We could be more vigilant. We could take more time. We could solve bigger problems. There's so much more we could do if we had more capacity, but we don't. So the challenge is, how do we find more capacity? And it's in there. It's inside of our agencies. There's so much more we can do. How do we unlock it? And again, this show is going to give us some insights into how to do that. All right? So, keeping with the theme of home improvement, I want to try to walk you through how we can capture capacity. So I'm going to talk about something that my wife can attest I know nothing about, which is plumbing. All right? Plumbing. In fact, I know so little about plumbing and home improvement in general, but I know so little about plumbing that I've been carrying this pipe around for about 2 years, talking to government audiences about how to make government more efficient. And I talk about water and water pipes and plumbing, and I've been carrying this around, and finally one person in the audience stopped me and said, Mr. Miller, you realize that that is a gas pipe, don't you? No, I did not know that. But imagine this is a water pipe, all right? For the sake of where we're going today, I want you to think about the work of government as a set of pipes. Okay, so however you visualize your work. So if we're in courts, if we're thinking about issuing court orders, if we're thinking about creating a docket or issuing filings, however the things in the courts that you do, I want you to think about each of those processes as a pipeline. On one end, the customer comes in, the customer travels through our process, and they come out the other end. Okay, if we're in healthcare, the same kind of thing, whether it's admissions, whether it's, again, creating a treatment plan, registering insurance information, however you view that. Other functions of government, if we're talking about creating permits, contracts, buying new information technology equipment, collecting taxes, making road repairs, however you visualize the work of your agency, I want you to think about it as a pipe. Again, on one end, the customer comes in, they travel through everything we do to them, and they come out the other side. Are you with me so far? So this is government. Lots of these. Now, if you're with me on this picture, excuse me. If you're with me on this picture, you can also understand what's happening to government. That is, somebody has cranked the faucet wide open. That is, the demand for government is growing all the time. People want us to do more things, right? They're expecting more from you, and the more that you deliver, the more they expect. And so there's just more. Especially around 2007, 2008, the demands got even larger as all of the symptoms of the economic crisis sent people coming to government for more help, more access to health care, more access to government programs, more people needing our help. In the United States, in many of our programs that deal with human services, again, access to food, shelter, employment, the increased demand has been between 40 and 70%. So these programs are serving 40 to 70% more people coming into them. Now, at the same time, we have up to 70% more water coming into the pipes. What's happening to the size of the pipes? Have your budgets grown by 40 and 70%? No, they shrink. At the same time, more people come to us for help, we have less resources to serve them. Again, I'm not totally familiar with what's happened in your situation, but in the United States, we've had budget decreases of 15, 20, 25% smaller budgets to serve 40 to 70% more people. Now, if you try to serve 70% more people with 20% smaller pipes, what happens? Yeah. That's the international symbol for, bad stuff, right? Pressure. Pressure is what is happening. And it's what everybody in government is feeling today, is pressure, right? The employees feel it as they feel like they're constantly working more and more. We're working longer hours trying to do more things. The customers feel it as they're stuck and they can't get help. Elected officials feel pressure because they want more, people want more and more results, but we can't get the agencies to serve more people. I mean, everybody is under this pressure. And it's all inside the pipes. This is where the pressure is happening. And as you know, again, if we don't resolve the pressure, it bursts and bad things happen. So if you're with me on this picture, this is what government is. We are collections of pipes, processes. Our pipes are full. They are under enormous pressure because there's more demand and less capacity. If you understand that, you can also recognize we really only have about two options to fix this. The first option is, well, let's just get rid of the water. Why don't we just turn off the faucet so that no more customers can come in? Can you do that? Can you just tell your customers, we're closed? No. In government, we do not have that option. In business, they can do that. They can say, we're not going to serve anybody else. We're full. But in government, they keep coming. So we can't get rid of the water. Well, if we can't get rid of the water, then we just need to add more people, right? More capacity, hire more people, just do more things. Can you add more people? Not likely. Very few of us have the budgets anymore where we can hire more people to serve. So we can't get rid of the water. We can't hire more people. What are we going to do? Prayer. That's all we have left. It's prayer. So if you would just take the hand of the person next to you, I will lead you. No. No, there is some hope. I think I'm supposed to deliver hope today. I forgot. So there is hope. There's a way out of this. There's a way out of the crisis. There's a way out of the pressure. There's a way out of the stress that we all feel. But this solution, this way out, is only available to you if you see work this way. If you think of government as pipes, you will immediately see there's a way out of this. So you have to tear off the walls of your home, tear up the floors, find the plumbing, and the minute you find the pipes in your agency, you'll say, I get it. I know what we need to do. Because the reality is, our pipes look nothing like this. Right? Customers don't come in the court here and very quickly flow out through the other side. Right? Somebody does not come to us for a license. They come in here and very swiftly they flow right through. Piece of cake, no problem. No, our processes and our pipes look like this. They are kinked up, gummed up, twisted, contorted, slow, convoluted messes. Where a customer comes here and they fill out paperwork here, then it goes to this agency, then up there for 2 signatures, then back to this agency, then it goes into a computer system here, and then back to this group to sign off on it, and then it sits here for 6 months, and eventually the customer sort of trickles out the other side. Is this what your processes look like? Right? That's what all government processes look like. This is what we're battling. And what is important to understand as we continue this conversation is that nobody set out to make them this way. Right? There's always this, we've got to figure out and hold accountable who did this and fix it. Nobody does this. There's not somebody sitting around, for those of you who are from procurement, right? There's nobody sitting around saying, what would be the hardest way for somebody to buy a new computer? Oh, you want that printer, do you? Well, we'll make you do this, and we're going to make you do that. It's not evil intent. There's nobody doing it on purpose. Our plumbing, our systems, our processes evolve this way over time. And we're going to talk in a little bit about how they get this way. There's a common denominator. There's a reason that they get this way. And when we know what that reason is, we can combat it, fix it, everything gets better. But it's important to stress, we can't blame people for this. The pipes are what they are. But this is what we have to fix. Okay? So this is what the work of government looks like. Or for those of you in large organizations, it looks more like that. Right? So you have a twisted, convoluted, contorted pipe feeding another twisted, convoluted, gummed up pipe, which feeds another. And somewhere in all of this are the people we're trying to serve. And they're trapped. So if the work of government is plumbing, the plumbing looks like this. How then can we serve more people and do more good? What is the answer? Yeah. Straighten the pipes. Straighten the pipes. It's not that hard. Remove the kinks. Take out the loops and the twists and contortions and all the things that have evolved over 20 years. Straighten the pipes. When we straighten the pipes, we speed the flow. When we speed the flow, more gets through. Does that make sense? We can serve more with a straight path than we can with a twisted path. It's the same concept if any of you garden. If you're out and you're working your garden and maybe you're watering the plants, and all of a sudden the water starts to trickle out instead of flow out. What is the first thing you do? You try to figure out, where is the hose? Where was it kinked? And you go and you straighten out the garden hose and the water flows through quicker and you're finished. Simple concept. It's the same concept we often do with rivers. Right? Engineering feats. Sometimes we take a river and we want to keep water in a community. So we come in and we bend the river. And when we bend a river, the water moves slower and it stays in the community. Similarly, if we want to get the water moving quicker from up here to down there, they will come in and they will straighten a river. And when we take the curves out of the river, the water flows faster, more gets through. Make sense? Straighten the pipes, speed the flow, more gets done. Simple concept. So why don't we do it? Why aren't all of you in your agencies acting as plumbers, coming in and straightening out the pipes? Why isn't this what we do? Because we don't see them. We don't see the pipes. In fact, when do you discover the pipes in your home? When they burst. Absolutely. When they burst is when you discover, hey, did you know we had a pipe up there? Right? I know my wife and I, when we were first married, we bought one of these, a charming fixer-upper home. A home was very old. Well, I say very old in America. To you guys, it would be brand new. It was a 100-year-old home with lots of charming characteristics. One of which was that there was a leak in the family room. And so I discovered this one night. I was walking across the living room, and it was a carpeted floor, and I had socks on. So I'm walking across the carpet. My sock gets wet. I'm like, what's the first thing you do when your sock is wet? Right, dog, right? So I looked for the dog so I could blame the dog. Right? Isn't this how your agencies work? Something goes wrong, you blame somebody? It's typical. All right, so I found the dog. We had a conversation about how this was unacceptable. And that was that. So the next night, walking in the same spot, again, sock gets wet. So clearly the dog did not understand our conversation from the day before. So we sat down, put it on paper. You know, this is my expectations of you, and do you agree? And if you agree, you'll get treats, and you know how you do these things. So this goes on 3 or 4 days in a row. Finally, I realized maybe it's not the dog, and I looked up. And sure enough, out of the ceiling, drip, drip, drip. Now, I'm not completely useless around the house, mostly useless, but the reason I never looked up was there was nothing above this room. There was no bathroom, no anything. There should be nothing leaking. But sure enough, you know, I called a roofer, and the roofing contractor came over, looked at it, and said, no, roof is fine. You need to call a plumber. So why am I calling a plumber? There's nothing up there. But sure enough, over the many years of reorganizations of the home, somebody had routed pipes directly above the TV room, and they were leaking. And that's the moment I discovered, look, honey, we have plumbing up there. And that's usually when we fix things. Right? We wait until the pipes burst. But when the pipes burst, it's too late. Because at that point, real damage occurs. All right? And of course, once the pipes burst, then we set about the hard work of trying to clean it up. Not really. Because again, in government, before we ever clean up the mess or fix the pipes, the first thing we have to fix is blame. Right? Somebody must be punished for this. Who did it? Who will be held accountable? Who will be fired? Somebody must be punished. Right? I'm reminded of a story this is from the US. I'm not sure how much of it will be familiar to you. As you know, the United States, we've had a series of terrorist incidents. Some have been avoided. One in particular, this happened about 4 years ago. There was I was going to say gentleman, it's the wrong word, a terrorist who was going to blow up an airplane over the city of Detroit. This was right around Christmas time. And this gentleman had, again, wrong word, this terrorist had snuck an explosive device in his underpants. Now, we don't take our underpants off at the airport. Still taking our shoes off, but underpants we keep on. I don't know why. Anyway, so sticks explosive device in his underpants. The plane is over Detroit, takes off all of his clothes, starts to light himself on fire. Now, there was another person on the plane who saw all this and thought, that looks strange. So he comes across the aisle and beats this guy senseless. and saves Christmas for everybody. It was a huge deal, right? So at the end of all this, there's many news stories about it. They bring out our Minister of Homeland Security. So the woman that runs our department to prevent this kind of stuff. And they bring her out, and she has a press conference, and she's behind the podium. And she says to the media and to the American people, "See, the system works." That's the system, right? We reorganized 9 government agencies, spent untold billions on new technology, all this stuff, and apparently our system is, hey, if you see a guy getting naked, hit him. So I thought that was a little incredulous. So did the media. And so for 3 days, she got beaten, just question after question, and made fun of, and it was quite terrible for her. After 3 days, the President of the United States finally held a press conference. And he came out and said, famously, "Look, the system clearly did not work." And he went on to explain why. And as he was trying to explain how this whole thing happened, and how this person was not prevented from boarding an airplane, because in the U.S. we have a list of people that are not allowed to board airplanes, and this person was supposed to be on it. But he was explaining how somebody goes into an embassy and they're concerned, and it gets loaded into a database, and then somebody takes that information and sends it to an analyst, who then sends it to another place, then it gets sent to America, then it goes to this agency, and then it goes back to and he's describing this whole convoluted thing, and all I could see was this pipe. Now, he wasn't up there holding a gas pipe, because he would look as ridiculous as I do, but he was describing this whole process, and at the end of it, you're like, wow, no wonder we never catch anybody. But what did the media want to know? Who are you going to fire? First question, as soon as they had questions, Mr. President, who will be fired? Who will be held accountable? Who is getting fired for this mess? And the president, I thought it was fantastic. The president said, "Who would I fire? The system is broken. The system is a mess, and we have to fix the system." But all we were fixated on in the media was blame, blame, blame. And this is what we do in government. When we don't see systems, we don't fix systems. What we instead do is we fix what we can see with our eyes. All the opportunities in your agencies are inside these. This is where the money is being spent. It's where the customers are stuck. It's where the bureaucracy is happening. It's where the results occur. It's all in here. But we don't fix the plumbing until it bursts, because we don't see it. The corollary of that is we spend all of our time in government trying to fix the things we can see. We improve what we can see. And what can you see when you look at government? What is visible? Because that's what we work on. For example, during the huge economic crisis that everybody felt in the U.S., tremendous, again, budget issues, the state of California in the U.S. is the 5th largest economy in the world, I believe. A budget deficit at the time of $25 billion. Tremendous, unsolvable, horrible budget problem. So the state of California had tried many things to fix this. Finally, they decided to elect somebody who had been governor 30 years prior to fix it. Now, this man had a lot of time to think about how to solve this crisis. $25 billion. First day in office, had a press conference. I've been studying this problem. $25 billion must be fixed. I've got the solution. All of the employees need to turn in their cell phones. No more mobile phones for employees. Problem solved. Really? Or there's another state in America, I believe it's our 3rd or 4th largest state. There was a person who ran for governor to run the state. Her campaign was all about paper clips. Paper clips. Do you even have those anymore? The paper clips, right? She went to a government agency, had every employee count how many paper clips were in their drawers, right? Every employee had to count how many they had at that day. And she totaled up all of the paper clips. And then she went all around the state saying, see what is wrong with government? This is how we spend our money, paper clips. Paper clips. Never mind that it cost more to count all the paper clips than we could have ever spent on paper clips. Right? But this was her big solution. Again, $1 billion in debt, large portions of the population out of work, tourism, their number one industry, was declining rapidly, housing prices dropping, and she's talking about paper clips. Why? Why do we talk about cell phones and paper clips and reorganizations? Because you can see them. Those are the things you can see, so that's what you fix. Even though it makes a small, small dent in what you do. Right? Have any of you been through a reorganization? Have your organizations reorganized every year? Every 2 years? Right? Every time we get a new leader, we reorganize. I could not understand this. As was mentioned in the introduction, my career is government. I've worked in government. I grew up working in government agencies. And every time we got a new boss, we were given a new organizational structure. And we all moved and nothing got better. We just had new places to sit. And I couldn't understand, why do we always do this? And it finally hit me one night. This was at home. I was taking my children up to bed, tucking them in for the night, putting them to bed. And I came back downstairs and I stepped on a Lego. Do you guys know what Legos are? Right? The little square building block toys, very sharp corners, very sharp. On the floor, stepped on it. Right? So I start screaming things that fortunately they couldn't hear, but I said a lot of things that I shouldn't have. Right? I set about it, I start taking the Legos and I'm putting them in a bucket. I'm just mad, just why don't these kids ever pick up their toy? They don't ever. 45 minutes later, I'm still there, but I'm building something, right? And my wife, she comes in and she says, what are you doing? I said, look, I made a bird. She's like, what? Because that's not a real bird, right? And I'm like, yeah, no, but look what I did. I made something. And that's when I realized, this is why we reorganize all the time. Because if you look at blocks on an organization chart, they look an awful lot like Legos. They don't have the little knobs on top of them, but imagine the little knobs on top of them, and now you'll see why we reorganize. Because we get a new boss, and the new boss doesn't understand the pipes. Doesn't get how we do our work, doesn't see the plumbing, but wants to make a difference. So what can it see? The only thing it can see is, Legos. Let's take them and move them around. I'll put this one with this one, the orange one goes with that one. Look, I made a bird. Well, you made a change. You didn't make an improvement. Two totally different things. But we do it. The intention is honorable. We want to make a difference. But if we don't see the plumbing, we focus on the things that we can see. The budget, the fleet cars, the computers, the cell phones, the organization charts, the office space. That's where we direct our attention. And we miss the true opportunity. And the things that you can see most in government, that which is most tangible, that I can see most with my eyes, is, of course, people. You are the most visible part of government. So when it comes time to improve government, where does most of the attention get focused? You people. Right? We have more programs and ideas and initiatives to make you better. And it starts with the belief that there is something wrong with you. Right? There's this inherent belief that people in government are dysfunctional. Right? That all of the slow, inefficient, customer-hating people in the world have all gravitated to one industry, government. Right? You're just walking around going, I'm really in no hurry. I'm very expensive and I hate people. Where could I work? Oh, government's hiring. Right? Isn't that the belief? Right? That there's something, again, wrong with you. And if we have that belief, we will spend all of our attention trying to make you better. We'll make you try to work harder, be more motivated, be more accountable, all these things. And that's where we direct our energy. What I want to challenge is that very belief. That it is not a people problem. Government does not have a capability problem. It has a capacity problem. Capacity is in the pipes, in the plumbing. It's not that we don't know what to do or how to do it. It's that we don't have enough to do it all. It's a totally different issue. And if you think the problem with government is a capability problem, you will spend all of your energy trying to get better employees. Right? I'll give you a couple examples of this. One of the jobs I had in government, I ran the agency that does license plates for automobiles. I'm not sure what it's called here, but in the United States it's called the Department of Motor Vehicles. It's legendary for great customer service. No. Horrible. It is the butt of all jokes in government. And at the time, deservedly so. Where I worked, in the state where I was running this, people would wait typically 2 hours in line. Again, I don't know if that's bad for you all, but for us, that's not acceptable, right? Is 2 hours bad? I would hope so. I'm just guessing. Right? 2 hours they would wait for service. And they knew this, so they would come and they would bring novels and food rations and sleeping bags to the office. And that was the situation. And I remember my very first day working for the agency, I decided rather than showing up in a suit and tie, I would sit in the back. I came in a baseball hat and shorts and just watched. Say, what did I get into? Why have I taken this job? What are my opportunities? So I'm watching this place, lobby full of people, 2 hour wait. And here's how the place worked. It used the queuing model, very much like a deli. I don't know if you go, you take a number, have a seat. You're familiar with that model, right? Now I think it's automated. There's a big sign that says the number, but back then you would take a number, you'd have a seat, and there was a lady whose job it was to yell out your number, and you would go get served. Simple process. So I'm watching this, and we have this lady behind the counter, and she starts calling out the numbers, and she gets to number 86. And I'll never forget this number because it's been burned into my brain, and you'll know why. She gets to number 86, and nobody answers. So it's a lobby full of people just like you, sitting there with the same looks on their face that you have right now. She gets to number 86. Nobody moves. So she starts getting a little more animated. She's like, number 86. Nobody moves. So she screams, number 86. She's yelling this, right? So all the people in the chairs, they're all starting to look at each other like, are you 86? Because she's going to, right? So everybody's getting very, very uncomfortable. And I'm watching this going, this is not a good customer service environment. Finally, she did. She climbed over the counter. She didn't use the little swinging door on the side. She comes over the counter, goes into the crowd, and starts grabbing people by their jackets. Are you 86? Show me your number. Is it you? And she's roughing up the customers. And I'm watching all this going, oh my goodness. I have to fix this? Now, the usual solution to that would be put her in customer service training, right? Teach her to be nice to the customers. That's not going to work, right? Interestingly, so that was about 9 years ago. I went to that same office last year as a customer. I don't work there anymore. I went there as a customer, right? And I still, to this day, people will come up to me and say, Ken, could I get the number of the customer service company you use to train your employees? Because the people at that office are the nicest people we've ever met. Now, as I mentioned, I went there last year. She's still there. They're talking about her. And they wanted to know what training did we put her through to make her so friendly? Do you know how much money we spent on customer service training? 0. Because what we discovered is it's very easy to smile and be friendly when you don't have a line 2 hours out the door. When we found a way to serve customers in 10 minutes or less and everybody was getting in and out, it's pretty easy to smile. We found that it was easy to smile and be friendly when you didn't have to tell somebody who'd been in line for 2 hours, you know what? You get to do this again tomorrow because you forgot this, this, and this. That is, when we found a way that customers could all get their work done in one visit and never have to come back, it was easy to smile. It was easy to smile when your computer doesn't go down every 10 minutes. That is, when we fixed the plumbing, when we dealt with the system issues, it's amazing how friendly your employees become. We have productive people who can work in productive systems. If you don't fix the plumbing and you make customers and employees work in this environment, nobody smiles. No matter how much money you spend on training, they're not going to smile. It washes off the next day, right? We have to fix this, not the people, right? The other common way we do this, so let me show you some examples of this, just to cement this through. One of my favorite management thinkers put it this way. Peter Schultes from the US, from Wisconsin, said all of the empowered, motivated, teamed up, self-directed, incentivized, accountable, re-engineered, and reinvented people you can muster cannot compensate for a dysfunctional system. When the system is functioning well, these other things are all just foo-for-ah. When the system is not functioning well, these things are still only empty, meaningless twaddle. Ouch. It's a little harsh, isn't it? But completely true. When the system is not working, no matter what you do to the people, it isn't going to make a difference. Right? Motivated, incentivized, accountable people working in broken pipes, we're still going to have water just trickling out the end. And Peter's point is, if you fix the plumbing, if we straighten the pipes, we can serve more people in functional systems. You don't have to do all this stuff to people. We can recognize that we have good people and we can put them in good systems. Then amazing things can happen. In my book, We Don't Make Widgets, I put it this way. This is my belief. Government is full of hardworking people. Again, it's not a people problem. We have hardworking people, but they are trapped in dysfunctional systems, producing invisible things. Again, we don't make cars or TVs or cell phones. We're making squishy, invisible things for people who often don't want them, right, courts? On behalf of others that do, for reasons we can rarely articulate and hardly measure. Is this your mission statement? Hardworking people in dysfunctional systems. Right? It's not a people problem. It is not a capability problem. It's a capacity problem. And the capacity is all in here. So let's get our attention off of the people. Leave them alone. You don't have to motivate them. You don't have to incentivize them. You don't have to hold them accountable. What you need to do is get the roadblocks out of the way that prevent them from serving who they're here to serve. And those roadblocks are all right here. Okay? So let's focus here. First thing you have to do, see it. Find your pipes. Find your plumbing. Discover it. Look at it. Study it. Realize this is it. Then what you can do after you figure that out is how do we fix it? So let's move to that. How do we straighten the pipes? Well, you can't straighten it if you don't know how they got this way. So let's have that conversation. How did our pipes get this way? Again, it wasn't intentional. What causes all of these kinks and things? What do you think? What's the source? Anybody? What causes our pipes to look like this? What do you think? Anybody? You don't know how this happens. Just everything one day was great and the next day was all messed up. And I don't know how it got that way. How does it get that way? How do our processes get so messed up? Continuous improvement. So the more we improve it, the worse it gets? Is that? Maybe. Okay. Functions and controls. What do you mean by controls? Okay. Safeguards, right? We come in and... Okay, so we chop up the work into different pieces, then we have to control the work, so we start to add in little pieces and parts. And when does it really go haywire? When does things really get bad? Right? Yeah, of course, yeah, we move the Legos, right? So then we twist the pipes even more, right? Yeah, it all works, it's all fine. Our pipe looks just like this until one day something goes wrong. It was a 1 in a million chance. Yeah, I don't know how it happened, but something went wrong. And as soon as something goes wrong, we start our journey towards complexity, right? It's like DNA, right? If you think about, the DNA of complexity, you take any complex process, any really gummed up, twisted pipe, and you put it under a microscope, and you study the DNA of how did it get this way, you will find that the DNA is always the same. The DNA of complexity is, this might just be an American term, I don't know, CYA? Cover your, is there a term you guys have for that? Right? Which is something goes wrong, somebody gets, and you immediately find a way to protect yourself, right? And so you add in a control or a safeguard, right? It's how it always happens, right? And if you think about the way, way work starts, right? Work might start with one person doing the job, okay? So, like, for example, and what is your name? Nadia? Claudia. So if Claudia is first, right? She's got this job to do, right? And maybe we're processing permits or processing applications of some kind. Just, a routine job, and she does it. And the applications come in, and she does the work, and they go out, and everything is fine. But one day, more come in than she can handle. So she gets behind. So she goes to management, and she says, look, I need more help. I cannot keep up. So management hires a consultant. Consultant comes in, looks at what she does, and says, you're right. There's no way one person can do all of these things. So rather than giving us a second Claudia, they say, what we'll do is we'll take the job and we'll divide it up into pieces, right? You're going to do part, and you're going to do part, and you will do part. So we have 3 people each doing a piece of it, right? And you're going to manage this whole thing. So now we've got a supervisor and we've got the parts. Right? Problem solved. Okay? This is the first step in everything going wrong, by the way. Okay? So the adage of specializing work, of chopping it up, creates enormous problems. But the first problem that it creates is something goes wrong. Right? One day, something comes up missing. And so the boss, is it Ari? Is that? Ari comes to the group and says, something is missing. Now, what are you going to say when he comes to you and says, something is missing? Wasn't me. I gave it to him. Right? Is it Matty? Is that right? I gave it to Matty. Now, what are you going to say? Yes, Arrow. Yes, exactly. It wasn't me. It was Arrow. Now you've run out of people to blame, so it's all on you now, right? But everybody's doing the government salute. Wasn't me. Wasn't that, right? And so our supervisor, so Ari finally says, "Look, I don't care who lost it. You find it, and never let this happen again." That one phrase, "never let it happen again," is the source of all of the complexity you live with today. All of the things that are stealing your capacity and twisting our pipes comes from that phrase, "never let it happen again." Now, it can come from the boss, it can come from an auditor, it can come from a legislative committee, but somebody says this is bad, don't let it happen again. Because as soon as we say that, right, we've lost it, don't lose it again. Claudia goes back to her work area now, and let's say she has employees that work under her, and she says, "Look, from now on, before we give anything to Maddie's group, we are going to stack it in a pile of 100. And we will put a cover sheet on there with initials. That way, if anything gets lost, we know who to blame." So they take the work and they pile it up and they put the cover sheet on and they hand it over to Maddie's group. Now, Maddie's group is going to start working right away on that, right? They're going to take those 100 items and start working right away, right? No. What is Maddie's group going to do? Yeah. They're going to count and make sure that Claudia's group did not pull a fast one on them. They're going to check and make sure there's 100 of them. And then they will put another cover sheet on with another set of initials. And then finally it goes to Arrow, and his group does the same thing. They make sure that all of those are in fact there. They put another cover sheet on. Everybody is cover sheeting, right? They've found a way to cover themselves so they will not be blamed. But then eventually that gets complicated, and we want to know where are the documents inside the piles. So then we create a report that shows where every document is. So now we have a report we have to generate every week to show where every document is. But that gets too complicated. So then we buy a very expensive computer system to track where each of these documents could be. In case somebody calls Ari and wants to know where they are, he can look it up on the computer system and give them a quick answer. But eventually we start getting more phone calls than we can handle. So now we have to build a phone center of people who just answer calls about, where is my document? Something that used to take one day over here now takes 7 weeks or 4 months across 3 different departments with a tracking system, the computers and the phone centers, and this is the world we live in today. And it all started with, never let it happen again. Every time something goes wrong, we build in a safeguard. And another one. And then something else goes wrong, and we build in another one, and another one. And 20 years later, our work looks like this. Again, remember I said there's nobody to blame. Nobody intentionally did this. But after 20 years of little tweaks here and little changes in CYA, this is where we're at. And all of that robs you of your most precious resource, which is capacity. Your staff's capacity to serve other people. All of it is consumed by all of this activity, to where we spend more time tracking our work, reporting our work, answering phone calls about work, being accountable for our work, than actually doing our work. And what you will discover in many agencies is that employees are oftentimes spending less than half of their time doing the job that they were hired to do. Half of their time doing the task, the other half of their time is being spent CYA for their tasks, filling out reports, tracking things down, answering questions, the stuff that is not the work. And all that stuff gets us behind. And once you get behind, everything gets complicated from there. Because as soon as we get behind in our agencies, we enter what is called the crazy cycle. The crazy cycle goes like this. So let's say you have a process and you have customers, and everything is fine for a while. Again, maybe you turn things around in a week. So they submit an application to you, a week later they get an answer. That's how things work. All is good. But all of a sudden, with all the CYA activity, we start to get behind. Now, when we get behind and we get backlogged, what do our customers do? What do your customers do when they aren't getting the service they expected? They call you. Excuse me, where's my application? Where's my contract? Where's my hiring decision? Where's my new piece of IT equipment? Whatever it is you do, they start calling you saying, hey, where is it? Right? They are stuck in the pipes. And when customers get stuck in the pipes, they start banging on them. Where am I? How do I get out of this thing? What happens to water that gets stuck in pipes? When the water doesn't flow and it gets stuck, what happens to it? It stinks. It stagnates. It stinks. It makes everybody sick. The same is true with customers. When the customers of your process get stuck in your pipes, they start to stink. That stink is they start bothering you. Where's my stuff? Where's my stuff? Where's my application? So now you have to take people that used to do the work off of the work to answer the phone and track it down. Which means you have less people to do the work. Which means you get further behind. Well, now that you're further behind, guess what you get more of? More phone calls. Which means you have to take people off of the work to answer the phones to figure out where their stuff is. Which means you have less people to do the work. Which means you get further behind. You see where I'm going? Crazy cycle. And you wake up one day and you have more people answering phones and tracking work than you actually do doing the work. And that is the world that we all live in today. In government, we try to solve the wrong end of the problem. Better reporting systems, better call centers, better computerized tracking systems. All of it. We are automating the CYA. Rather than fixing the source. And the source is the pipes. So here's the solution. Here's what the TV show teaches us. Here's what plumbing teaches us. The solution to get out of the crisis that we're all in, where more and more of our money is spent on computer systems and tracking systems and reporting and accountability, and our processes are all twisted up like this. The solution is to go so fast your customers have no time to bother you. I'll repeat that one. You want to write this one down. The secret to government is to go so fast that your customers have no time to bother you. Let me give you, since you don't believe that, let me give you an example. So one of the jobs I had in government was tax collection. And in the state where I worked, we collected maybe too much tax from somebody and they wanted their money back. They get a refund. So every year they would submit their taxes, we would send them a check for a refund, and they wanted their money. Obviously, if you've overpaid the government, you want your money back as fast as possible. We thought otherwise, and we took 3, 4, 5 months to get people their money back. When I was first started working there, I went on a tour of the facility, and we had 2 buildings. One building was people who processed tax collections. So they deposited the money, entered forms and data into computers. They did all the work to collect the money. The other building was full of people who did nothing but answer the phone of, where's my money? All day long, their job was to tell people when were they going to get their money back. The 2 buildings were the same size. We had as many people who answered the phones saying, where's my refund, as we did actually doing the work. That is all lost. That's all cost, expense. That's just money out the door. Half of our budget on people who did nothing but Because we were so slow here, we had to spend that much just to answer the phones. So the solution, we worked with the people in this building and said, okay, now how does this take 4 months? What we discovered was there was only 3 minutes of labor. 3 minutes worth of work, opening an envelope, reading something, putting it in the computer, 3 minutes. But it took 3 or 4 months. So the group working on it got the 4 months down to 1 day. 1 day. People got their money back the next day. Now guess what? If people get their money back the next day, guess what they're not going to do? Call you to say, where's my refund? So people stopped calling. And when the people stopped calling, we could take those bodies and use them over here to process the work, to do the actual work, which meant we never got behind. When we never got behind, people didn't have to call to say, where's my refund? And we never had, do you understand what I'm saying? When we get this part fixed, we don't need this part. This building was all waste. This building is all value. When we speed up the value creation, we eliminate the waste. The solution is to go so fast, your customers have no time to ask, where are we? And you get off the crazy cycle. How fast is possible? Well, again, the TV show Extreme Makeover makes this very clear. This is where, again, we build a house in 7 days. Now, if you've seen this show and you see the houses that they build, it's not like they said, well, we only had 7 days. We probably couldn't get windows in this house. Well, we only had 7 days, so we decided not to put a roof on it. No, you get everything. The house is still a house. It has a roof, it has nails, it has windows, it has 14 flat screen televisions. You get everything in the house. It's an amazing house. They don't build a house in 7 days by cutting corners or skipping things. That is, all of the value creation steps are still there. What they got rid of was all of the space between the tasks, right? So they figured out when we're putting the roof on, we can be doing the following plumbing tasks. When we're installing carpeting over here, we can do these things over here. That is, the tasks are all still happening. They're just happening at the same time. For any of you who've ever tried to do this yourself, you know that's not how it works, usually. Like in the case of my home, you know, the plumber showed up and did a little work, then he disappeared for a couple weeks, then we found him and we dragged him back, then he did a little more work, then he really disappeared, and then we had to get a court order, and I mean, you know, and that's just the plumber. We haven't got the wall guy and the roofs and all those pieces and parts, and none of them work together, and miscommunication, and 14 months to build a house. But if you look at just the labor, 7 days. Here's the reality. Every process you look at, science has proven it. The hundreds of projects I've worked in my government career prove it. The actual work in a process, the labor, is less than 5% of the total time. Okay? So of the total time that your customers are stuck in your pipe, less than 5% of that time is work actually happening to them. 95% of that time is lost. So the goal is not to fix the work. We're not trying to tell people to work harder or work faster, because those are the tasks, and the tasks only make up 5%. What we're trying to fix is, why did 3 minutes worth of work turn into 3 months? Why does 7 days of labor to build a house turn into 14 months? That's the CYA, that's the kinks, that's the safeguards, that's the reorganizations, that's all of that stuff. Does that make sense? So as we're straightening the pipes, we're removing these things, we are working on removing the 95% of the time that is not work. And we are leaving intact the 5% that is the work. Here are some examples from different parts of government. Typical permitting processes. Government is big in permits, right? We issue building permits and health permits and restaurant permits, all these different permits. Maybe it takes the customer 6 or 9 months to travel through that whole pipe. But there's only about 7 to 10 days worth of actual labor being done by permit engineers and staff and approvals, and you add up all those pieces and parts, it's about 7 to 10 days. 99% opportunity to make that process better. Not by fixing the tasks, but figuring out where did all that other time go. Straighten the pipes, remove the kinks. Hiring processes, if you're allowed to hire people, in government that can take months to hire people. But there's only about 2 days worth of work. Job description, post the job description, do screenings, conduct interviews. Well, 2 days. Why does it take 4 to 6 months? Doesn't have to. Government agencies have fixed this and got people hired in 2 days. Tax refunds, as I mentioned, 30, 45 days, whatever. There's maybe 10 minutes of work, often less. Client benefits, and you'll probably hear some examples of this from our friends in Utah that we'll be presenting. Somebody comes to the government, they need assistance with housing or with food. It may take 30 to 60 days for them to get approved. But there's only 30 minutes of actual work. I sit down with you, I interview you, I make calculations, I make a determination, 30 minutes. How does 30 minutes turn into 60 days? We don't try to fix the 30 minutes. You don't tell a social worker, work harder. It's the space between the tasks is where all the opportunity is. And if you're with me in the workshop tomorrow that I'll be conducting with Dr. Bernard, we're going to get into very specifically the 5 things. There are 5 things that take up 95% of the time. Right? The difference between the elapsed time and work time is always 5 things cause it. And we'll get into those 5 tomorrow if you're with us. But it is possible. Or we could just automate it and be done with the whole thing. Right? Why don't we just buy a fancy new computer system? It'll solve all of these problems that you're talking about, Ken. Isn't that what we're told? Right? The way you fix government, you fix the people, or you automate it. You buy a big computer system. When we buy a new computer system, a funny thing happens with it. We take our pipes that look like this, our processes, and we go to our technology friends and we say, please, build us a new computer system. And they take a look at our process and they say, you have 7 different people that sign off on this document. Can you fix that in any way? No. Would you please automate that? Okay, so automate it. But it goes here and it goes there and back here. Can we change any of it? No, but would you please automate that for us? Okay, but and everything they want to fix, just automate it for us, please. So $40 million later, they hand us back a new computer system. It looks exactly the same. It's just shinier. What we do is we take our old twisted, contorted pipes and now we've cemented them. They are stuck like this forever. Because technology is not the solution. Because technology is not the problem. Technology is not the reason we have 7 sign-offs. Technology is not the reason we chopped up work into little tiny pieces and have to manage every little interaction. Technology is not the reason why somebody gets kicked and we build in safeguards and all those things. The problems with our pipes are managerial, they're cultural, they're trust issues. They're the things we have to fix. We have to straighten the pipes. And only after we've done that hard work of straightening them, then you give it to technology and it'll take you all kinds of places. But we're fixing the wrong thing. We have to straighten the pipes first. And the reason why technology is not the answer. Technology is amazingly effective at fixing our work tasks, taking our work and making it simpler. But remember, work makes up less than 5% of the total time. Technology fixes that 5%. Maybe I can do less calculations, maybe I can create a report easier. Awesome. But that's just 5% of the problem. The 95% opportunity, which is in the system, technology doesn't address typically. So we spend $40 million for a 50% chance to make a 5% improvement. The 50% chance is the statistics on how many IT projects are successful? Half. It's a coin flip. So you're spending $40 million on a coin flip to make a 5% improvement. What we're trying to offer you in this conference is a chance to make a 95% improvement with no investment by doing nothing more than using the intellect of your people, the people who are trapped in the system, coming together to study the system, figure out better ways of configuring the system so we can serve more people with the limited resources we have. It's possible, it's exciting, and you're going to hear tremendous examples throughout the rest of the day of how it's been done. And if you're with us in the workshop tomorrow, we're going to get very, very detailed on how to do it. So, let me close with my beliefs and maybe how you can learn a little bit more. Started a foundation a few years ago called Public Great, which is built on this premise. The work of government is noble. The things that you are doing are noble work. You are serving vulnerable populations. You are protecting sacred institutions. You're creating opportunities for your citizens. You are doing noble things. The people of government are amazing. Again, it's not a people problem. If you fired all of us and put in a whole new crew, how long would it be till we're in the exact same situation? Not long. Because the third thing, the systems of government are a mess. So let's work together. Let's make them great. Right? That's where we should put our attention. Hopefully you can join a Makeover crew and make that possible. If you want to learn more, I've written 3 books. 2 of them are up here. I believe one is available if you're in the workshop tomorrow. Is that, no? Yes? Maybe? All right. But this website address, you can find access to these books. Extreme Government Makeover, the principles we talked about this morning. And We Don't Make Widgets, which is all about the idea that how does the stuff that works in the private sector, how does that work in government? Because we're different, right? We don't make widgets. We don't have customers. We don't have a bottom line. We're not here to make a profit. Aren't we totally different? No. And so that book explains how all those concepts translate into government. So hopefully you'll check those out. And if that's not enough for you, I'll be around all day today. If you want to ask me any questions or if you want to argue and throw things at me, I'm available for you to do that as well. Enjoy your conference, and thank you for having me be a part of it.